The crowd mocked her 4 eyes, until a one-eyed human touched his blade who wants to be. Beginning. The market district of Calthorus Prime was alive with the usual thunder of alien voices, metallic bartering calls, and the buzzing neon signs that lined every shopfront. Here, merchants from 29 systems shouted in a dozen languages, selling wares ranging from anti-gravity boots to fruit that pulsed faintly with bioluminescence. Above cacophony, however, another sound rippled, a cruel, jeering laughter. The source of the laughter was obvious. Standing in the open courtyard, stiff and defensive, was a young Elvari girl named Sira. Unlike most Elvari, whose 2 shimmering sapphire eyes were considered beautiful, she had been born with a mutation. For eyes, 2 stacked atop the others. The upper pair blinked independently of the lower, often startling those who looked too closely. 4 eyes. Do you see twice the filth you are? Shouted a hulking Torvani trader, flicking a rotten rind in her direction. Careful, she'll stare you into madness with all those eyes, another cackled. The gathered crowd roared, their mockery swelling like a wave. Sira clenched her fists, but she didn't reply. Her adoptive mother had warned her not to draw attention, not to let her anger feed the cruelty. Still, the sting pierced her deeper than any blade. She had only come to trade a small pouch of healing roots, hoping to earn a few credits, but the crowd saw her as nothing but a spectacle. Above the laughter, a single, heavy footstep rang out. Then another. The market seemed to quiet, as though an unseen force weighed down the air. Out from the smoke of a nearby forge walked a tall, broad-shouldered figure wrapped in a travel-worn cloak. A jagged scar slashed diagonally across his face, and where one eye should have been, there was only a sealed socket, marked with an old cauterization line. His other eye, a sharp gray, glittered like steel under firelight. A murmur rippled through the crowd. A human from the outer colonies, someone whispered. Dangerous kind, that one. He carried at his hip a curved blade, its hilt wrapped in leather darkened with use. His presence alone shifted the atmosphere. Where others had mocked, now silence hovered like a predator in waiting. The one-eyed human stopped beside Sira. He didn't look at the crowd. Instead, he looked at her, studying her 4 eyes without a trace of revulsion. Slowly, almost ritualistically, he placed one hand on the hilt of his blade. Do you want me to be? He asked, voice low, gravelly. Sira blinked all 4 eyes at once, startled. W what? He tilted his head toward the crowd, still quiet but restless now. Do you want me to be the one who ends this laughter? The crowd shifted uneasily. The man's tone wasn't loud, but every soul in the square heard it. The jeers dissolved into whispers, then silence. Sira felt her throat tighten. For the first time in her life, someone hadn't looked away in disgust. Middle. His name was Kale Varen, a mercenary, or so the rumors claimed. Whispers followed him like shadows. That he had fought in the siege of Ventros, that he had once cut down 12 raiders in a single skirmish, that he carried not just a blade but the weight of an oath broken long ago. No one dared test whether the rumors were true. From that day forward, the market mocked Sira less. Wherever Kale's boots touched stone, fear followed. He did accompany her always, but when he appeared at her side, the crowd melted like smoke. Sira, wary but curious, began to speak with him. Why did you defend me? She asked one evening as they sat near the smoking cliffs that overlooked the neon sprawl of Calthorus Prime. Kale shrugged. Mockery is a blade too dull to kill, but sharp enough to scar. I've had enough of scars. You don't even know me, Sira pressed, her 4 eyes narrowing. He turned his single gray eye toward her, unflinching. I know what it's like to be hated for what you can't change. Bit by bit, Sira learned a story. He had been a soldier once, but when his battalion betrayed innocent colonists during the Vor campaign, he had turned on his own commanders. The price was exile, his honor stripped, his left eye lost in the ensuing duel. Since then, he had wandered from world to world, blade always at his side, never staying long. You carry shame, Sira said softly one night. And you carry difference, Kale answered. Both are weights the world will not forgive. But even as they spoke, forces darker than market mockery began to stir. The Torvani traders, humiliated by Kale's silent threat, had reported Sira to the overseers of Calthorus. In the overseer's creed, mutation was impurity, and impurity could not be tolerated. One night, their enforcers arrived. Steel boots thundered against the dust as armored figures descended upon Sira's home. Kale met them at the door, blade already drawn. She is under my protection, he said. The captain sneered. And who are you, one-eyed relic? This is overseer law. Kale's voice was calm. Then your law must bleed. The battle that followed burned itself into the stones of the alley. Kale moved with deadly precision, his blade flashing arcs of silver fire under the neon sky. Sira, though trembling, used her knowledge of roots and herbs to blind one enforcer with a pouch of acidic dust. Together, they drove the overseers back, but not without cost. Kale's shoulder was cut, deep and burning. As Sira's stitches wound by candlelight, tears welled in her 4 eyes. They'll come again. Stronger. They'll never stop. Kale's single eye caught hers. Then we don't wait for them. We strike first. Rising conflict. Word spread across Calthorus that the 4-eyed girl and the one-eyed human had defied the overseers. To some, it was an act of rebellion. To others, blasphemy. But in the hidden corners of the city, where outcasts and rebels whispered, a spark caught flame. Those who had been mocked for deformities, exiled for scars, or silenced for dissent began to rally. They saw in Sira not a freak, but a symbol. They saw in Kale not a broken soldier, but a sword raised in defiance. The overseers responded with brutality. Patrols doubled. Curfews tightened. Any who spoke Sira's name were taken. One night, under the shattered moonlight, Sira confronted Kale. "This isn't just about me anymore," she whispered. "They mock me for 4 eyes, but what they fear is anyone who's different. If we run, they'll still hunt the others." Kale studied her, seeing not the frightened girl from the market, but a leader unshaped by fear. He touched the hilt of his blade. "Then we make them see," he said. Their plan was dangerous. Impossible, some would say. The Overseer's Hall, Har Kaltharis, was guarded by plasma towers and armored sentries. But Kale knew fortresses, and Sira, with her 4 eyes, could see details others missed. Hidden patrol routes, cracks in the defenses, patterns of light and shadow invisible to ordinary vision. For eyes were meant for more than tears, Kale told her. And so, with a small band of outcasts, they moved. Through tunnels, over walls, across the neon rivers that cut the city, they advanced. Every step carried risk. Every breath might have been their last. At last, they stood before the Overseer's Hall. Its gates loomed like jaws of a beast. Climax. The assault began at midnight. Kale led the charge, his blade slicing through armored guards with merciless precision. Behind him, rebels fought with makeshift weapons, their courage blazing brighter than plasma fire. Sira darted through shadows, her 4 eyes spotting ambushes before they struck, guiding her people with cries that carried both fear and hope. Inside the hall, the Overseer himself awaited, a towering figure in gilded armor, eyes augmented with crystalline implants. "So, the freak and the exile," he boomed. "You think yourselves heroes?" Kale stood firm. "Not heroes, just tired of kneeling." The duel was brutal. Blade against energy staff, steel against fire. Sparks filled the chamber as the Overseer pressed with strength, but Kale answered with skills sharpened by exile. Still, the Overseer's augmentations gave him an edge, and Kale faltered, driven to his knees. It was then that Sira stepped forward. The Overseer sneered. "What will you do, 4 eyes? Stare me to death." Her 4 eyes blazed, not with shame, but with fury. She hurled a pouch of volatile herbs onto the Overseer's chest. The chemicals ignited, searing his armor, blinding his crystalline eyes in a burst of corrosive smoke. "Now, Kale," she cried. With a roar, Kale surged up, his blade flashing. One strike, then another. The Overseer fell, his staff clattering to the floor. The hall was silent, save for the ragged breaths of rebels. Ending. By dawn, the Overseer's banners had been torn down. The city of Kaltharis awoke to a new reality. The rule of fear had cracked. Sira stood at the steps of the hall, her 4 eyes shining in the pale morning light. No longer mocked, no longer hidden. She faced a crowd that had once jeered at her. "You call me 4 eyes," she said, her voice steady. "And yes, I see more than you. I see the cruelty you allowed. I see the freedom we can claim. I see the dawn that begins today." The crowd listened, silent but transfixed. Many bowed their heads. Others raised their fists in salute. A chant began, soft at first, then swelling into thunder. "Sira, Sira, Sira." Kale watched from the shadows, leaning on his blade. His single eye met hers across the square. He gave the smallest nod. She had become something greater than either of them expected. Later, when the rebels gathered to plan the city's future, Sira found him preparing to leave. "You're not staying?" she asked. Kale shook his head. "I'm a blade, not a crown. My place is a road. Yours is here." Tears threatened, but she didn't stop him. Instead, she touched his scarred hand. "You asked me once if I wanted you to be," she whispered. "You were. You are." He gave a faint smile, rare and fleeting, before turning toward the horizon. The one-eyed human walked on, his blade at his side. Behind him, in the heart of Kaltharis Prime, a 4-eyed girl stood tall, no longer mocked, no longer afraid. She was a symbol of defiance, a leader born not of perfection, but of difference. And somewhere in the stars, others like them would hear the story and rise.